Hey guys, a random millennial here. Um, this is gonna be third video in 3 days, so probably just another one of those rant videos. Oh my god, I have to. I think day by day it's getting a little better, a little better. The very first day uh, that it hit me again. Oh my god, I was driving myself up a wall. I was going crazy. Now, the second day, uh, it was a little better, because I was able to talk with close friends, uh, talk with my significant other. It was good to talk about things, and I don't know if you guys figured this out by now, but I'm like hyper logical, or at least I claim to be, try to be, and it's probably a fault in a lot of senses. It's not a it's not a great trait to have. Because you can't turn it off, but at the same time, when something is happening with you that you cannot reason away, uh, it creates this divide, um, this chasm mentally, where it's just really hard to reconcile. Uh, I actually, I went on multiple walks today. Two, but went on two walks, drove in a circle, rather large circle, in the neighborhood. Is all to just use up my time, so that I'm doing something without you know thinking, because I can't concentrate on work. I can't. These thoughts are just eating up so much of my consciousness and my unconsciousness, obviously, right? So I was trying to do everything to try to multitask as much as possible to just try to deal with it, to try to waste my waste is a really bad word, but try to spend up time. The thing, and then it's really upsetting because you think about it, and or now that I'm starting to think about it, because I mean, towards the end of the day, there's not really as much. People are relaxing at home, um, getting off work. Uh, the downtime is when you have like very little to distract yourself, and a simple YouTube video is not going to cut it. It's just not. I touched on this, and it probably wasn't as coherent as it should have been, needed to be, especially for someone who is probably going through what I'm going through. Um, it's you know I don't have a tangible fear. It's not a failure. It's not like having regrets. Um, it's not of being scared of something. Uh, you know, have I failed in life? Plenty of times, on plenty of occasions. Do I have regrets? Plenty of them. Maybe more than most, right? That would be an argument that I could try to make, but that's a different conversation. Um, Everyone only knows their own life in its entirety, for as much as they remember, anyway. Uh, so it's hard to have true comparisons there, but you know those those things have bothered me before. It would be lying to say it didn't. And you end up having, like, they do eat away at you, but I've reconciled most of it, because there are things you just can't. Yes, there are things you can't control, but there are things where if I had done things differently, me as a person would be different. If I didn't go through certain, failures, certain tough situations in life, uh, spent my time the way I did, I wouldn't be me. So it's very hard to quantify that, to actually say, would it be better or bad? I mean, I guess you could say maybe it's better because maybe I wouldn't have this depression now, but that's not necessarily true because the onset could be from anything and it could be something completely different that bothers me, right? Um, but yeah, I think, when I was talking about things not really mattering on the grander scale, I, a friend told me this because it made sense. Like he listened to what I said and he understood that, by definition, if you're the further away you look at something, um, the less relevant it is. Like if you look at one person's life, right? To that one person and those around them, that person's life is very, very important. But the further away you extend that sphere to, say, to their community, um, to the country, to people, like to the planet, to humanity as a whole, that life starts mattering just a little bit less each of those steps you take, till till it gets to a point where it's not relevant, um in the big universal sense, right? And that's okay. And I think that's an issue for me because I know it's okay, but it's not enough. It's not. Um, because it's weird. It's hard for me to just focus on the smaller picture, quote unquote, uh, to give myself my life more meaning, right? But really, I know, the logical part of me knows, we're not here for a long time. And there's that saying, you're not here for a long time, but a good time, yada yada yada. There you could find dozens, hundreds, thousands of sayings because these thoughts I'm having that I'm manifesting aren't new. People have thought about these questions before, and to calm themselves, to make themselves feel better, and to deal with their feelings. It manifests in these sayings, in you know these news articles, these movies, these, like, when all these similar concepts of someone rectifying something in the past, or reliving their youth, or changing time, or all of these things, right? These currently in the year 2021, these fantasy elements, um they they didn't appear out of nothing. It appeared to address an issue. People thought of this to address an issue, and to use it as entertainment, for an escape. And the crazy thing is, all of this right now, I was going a little crazy, trying to uh, make use of my downtime right now. And then I saw my bathroom was really bright. I saw, you know, a part of me, there is a gray hue to my hair, and that is normal, growing old. And I have many grays on the side, right? But, you know, a part of me was at least happy that I haven't, they didn't go towards the top yet, right? And, maybe my hair is thinning a little bit to the sides, but it's not in a noticeable, at least to me, fashion yet. Um, but no, I found gray hair on the top, and I just was like, you couldn't even give me this. You couldn't even give me, more years of just not having gray on the top. It's something so silly, right? And it just sent me down this rabbit hole again of thinking about all of this. Because, the one thing I'll say, I'm not, some of the, because the videos have been really rants, like a ranting format. So I can't really recall if I've talked about my feelings about what's wrong with the way we age. What a great movie, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Right, it gives you a very interesting concept where an individual is Brad Pitt in this case ages in reverse. Um, I'll admit, preface, I haven't seen the movie in a while, but the concept is, never mind whether or not it makes sense, right? Throw that out of the window. Just think about it from a theoretical, think about it from that perspective. Just facts, science, biology, all that, how it would actually work in actuality. Forget about that. You are born, you live the early parts of your life old, and everything that entails. Lower immune system. Aches, pains, not as mobile, not as active. All of it, whatever else you can think of, right? And as you progress through life, you get younger and younger, right? The growing up in that sense is getting younger. Now, a benefit for that is, what's one of the issues with being a kid? You think you're indestructible, right? You're all you've ever known at that point, your formative years. Nothing really affects you. You can eat fast food 3 times a day, every day. You can not sleep. You can do whatever, and it affects you. It doesn't affect you. But when you're older, right? And I'm not at, the 60s, 70s, 50s, whatever, those levels, but I'm sure it does. And you can probably find a lot of facts that it does. It affects you more. Your cell turnover rate decreases, all this stuff, right? In a world where you do age in reverse, you're able to focus on learning, and interpersonal relationships, build them far better, because you're more dependent on others when you're old. You need that interaction as well, even if it's not just for help, but for your mental state, I believe, more so. And you're just able to focus on your studies because you don't have all these crazy distractions. You're not super hyper, you're not any of that, right? And then as you age, as you get past that, you've dealt with the education, been able to focus on it, right? You slowly become better and better, stronger physically, until you hit your prime in your 20s and 30s, right? And from there, there's an argument, right? As a young kid, you start needing help again, but the decline then from your prime and becoming a kid, or becoming younger and younger, you don't have those pains that you've had when you were elderly. It's it's just different. Just really like it's hard for me to put into words everything I'm feeling about that. But just think about it. So the other thing is, say on average, obviously not true, it's probably less, but say on average people are living till they're 100, right? Easy math. If you're in your prime, in your like your teens, puberty, into like your late 20s or early 30s, however you want to say, but we'll just be simple about it and say, in your 20s to 30s, right? So 20 to 30. Let's say you're in your prime there, prime physical years. That happens for you right away. The way the world works, that happens for you right away. And then everything after that, you have to be okay with, because there isn't a choice, right? But you have to be okay with the decline happening, right? If you were climbing a mountain your first 30 years of life, the next 70 is downhill, right? And that's not to say you won't have great experiences, memories, and all we are our memories. And without those, you might as well not be a person, right? Not have been alive even, honestly, if you don't have memories and experiences that you built. But so 70 years of decline, right? And what that's like versus the 70 years climbing to your prime and then having 30 years of decline, right? I don't want to say it's more humane, but it just makes more sense. Science aside, it makes more sense, right? So if there was, if you are religious and you believe in the big man, that's a thing to think about. It's interesting. But yeah, that's just something I've been, my mind has been thinking about nonstop. Can't really stop it. But yeah, I mean, getting older, it's definitely something to. Thankfully, this depression of mine has been cyclical, at least for now, since this is the second, big bout of it, after a couple months before. So thankfully it is, because I don't know how I would deal with it if it was like this all the time, right? Having the good months when it's in recession is really important, because it's something to look forward to, work for. But because the onset of it is something is intangible, right? How do you tackle something like aging? You just have to be okay with it. Really difficult. It's if everybody were okay with aging and then think twice about it on even a subconscious level, then when people are in their 30s and 40s and 50s, they wouldn't be getting Botox. They wouldn't be doing plastic surgery, that kind of stuff, to try to, look younger and get some semblance of getting back their glory days. However, that might be a simplification. There might be other reasons for people do, but I think on some subconscious level, that's why Botox is a thing. Why plastic surgery is a thing. Why all these like treatments and therapies are a thing. It's crazy when you get older, needing help. The scariest thing is when you get to a point. Inevitably, if you have a long life, let's not talk about whether or not you were happy or it was a good life or whatever. All those subjective terms, right? The longer you're alive, the way things are now, no advancements, no further medical advancements or whatever, you'll be at a point where for sure you're going to rely on someone, right, or someone's to for your daily needs, for your day to day, because you're going to be too weak to do so. Uh, and I'm not saying you can't be fit in your like 70s or anything, but there is that point where, and there's very few and far between the people who are fit in your 70s. It it's something is not the norm where you get articles and news about it, right? Because it's something, oh, this one person can do it, so let's aspire to do it. Sure, no one's aspiring to be, you know, decrepit or unable to take care of themselves at any point in their life. No, that's not an aspiration. But there are things you just can't control. You can't help, biology, time. Um, so you get older, right? And you get to that point. It's you have to, your bedside table or your bathroom mirror will have all these medications, whether or not it's for your blood pressure or for whatever the case may be. All the things you have to do and what it entails at that point, and how tiresome, utterly tiresome it would be to go through the processes to just live, at that point. It's a scary thought. I almost want to kind of interview or talk to people who are older at all levels, just to gauge their experiences and what they feel, because I'm curious how they got over it. And if they don't think about it, if it's not a conscious thought, I would not want to be the one to bring it up to them for them to start thinking about it. That would be terrible, right? Like, that doesn't seem like something I would do, because I wish I wasn't thinking about it right now. So, yeah, tough. That's tough. That's a little tough. But, another saying that I've some of the original videos, I know I've definitely said it, but the older you are, when you walk in a room, the less chance of someone older than you is there, right? Makes sense. Super, super, super scary to think about, at least for me. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I can hope that, down the line within my lifetime, there'll be, some serious advancements, um, in cellular regeneration, uh, therapies, whatever. Because it's not enough to just increase our lifespan, right? The quality of life has to increase as well. But it's a slippery slope. There's a lot of issues to tackle. VR and all that stuff. Honestly, I was I wish I was more into science and, a scientist now, and whatever all that entails, so that I can apply myself to try to figure out these issues. Not saying that I would solve them, but it would be something that I would be actively doing to occupy myself, right? Man. Ooh, starting to think about some of those regrets. It's crazy. It's tough. It's easier to balance there, because I think about the life I have now, regardless of whether or not it would be quote unquote better from whatever angle you want to look at, for having a better education, going to a different school, or all of that stuff in life. You wouldn't, I said this earlier, you wouldn't be the same person. So wouldn't really matter. Oh, I just got a text that it's snowing today. Today is, wait, let me double check. Today is Wednesday, December 8th, 2021. This is how I am today. Um, you know, and more so than anything, I am posting these videos for myself to, remember me at these different intervals, especially at these rough times, to just be able to, you know, revisit in a more, what word am I trying to, like a physical sense, something more than this, not just my memory, right? That's being a millennial. Let me tell you, perhaps it's not even. It's tough because of being a millennial, you have your generation, your parents' generation are completely different. Those are the dichotomy between those two far greater than it's ever been from any other like two generations. Because currently in history, because obviously I don't, in the future maybe it's something else that is equivalent to the advent of the internet will arise, right? You see those articles. I actually saw an article earlier today where you know Facebook, Instagram, all these things that are currently a thing. I don't know if they will be in the future, but they contribute a lot to early onset depression, body image issues, because you're seeing the ones like the movie stars, the famous people who are seem to be living this amazingly lavish life. Not saying they aren't, but they're just, that kind of information is just plastered into your face, where in front of you, where it wasn't before. There, all these things that the younger generation now, and to an extent my generation, but again, we weren't really growing up with that. The Instagram and all that stuff happened when we were more so in our 20s, to I think, right? Not in our early teens. Like, kids didn't even have cell phones I didn't have a cell phone at 10, but I think that's probably even a late number nowadays. I think most people give their kids a phone at 10 or earlier, and not necessarily for internet, for games or whatever, but for safety, to be able to keep in contact. It's almost hard to imagine what it was like before, right? When I was growing up. But yeah, I mean, I didn't have a phone. There was no issue, but I wasn't constantly comparing myself either, which I know I would have done. And I mean, we had MySpace and Facebook, but it just was not at the level of, Instagram. And it was not at ease. The amount of information you got then is incomparable to now. Just absolutely. It's not even the same. And all this is attributing to, the rise in depression amongst the young, amongst the population. It's crazy to think about, because if I didn't have all these triggers, right, like the article about Snoop Dogg being 49, or all those, this X and such whatever star looks great at 50, 60, or the reminder of a Harry Potter reunion, which I am looking forward to, but the fact that it was 20 years ago. I'm currently 31, so to be able to process that it was 2/3 of my life, right? That's insane. I can still remember, not very. We're not talking about as if it's fresh, like I just saw it, but I can still remember all the movies. Right? So in that sense, it doesn't feel that long ago. Because when you recall something in the past, your mind doesn't have to sift through and for you to process everything that happened in between. You're just looking for that one moment, right? So it doesn't seem that long ago, but then when you contextualize that, right? And then you realize, oh, 20 years and yada yada yada, right? That's time is ephemeral in that sense, right? It's always moving. You can't we currently cannot stop it, obviously. But it's independent of how we feel, how anything is, right? It's always moving, but it's the way it works in interaction to our minds. It's not constant. It's really subjective. Like time is different for different people because of how our memory works, right? Just as my example of extrapolating the memories of the first Harry Potter movie, for instance, right? And just because I don't have all those other memories that happen in between pull up at the same time, it doesn't feel as old. When actuality, it is. I probably can think of a better example, but again, not exactly in the best state currently to you know to provide an example like that. But oh my god, this movie, this video is already 31 and a half minutes long. But I think this is the one where it is a rant, but I think I'm making the most sense, so it's not as confusing, right? And I'm definitely interested if you guys have had these thoughts, right? And what you've done to cope with these thoughts. But I think that's why I'm scared to like give someone these thoughts, right? Because I feel like once you have them and once you listen to like this video, for instance, I don't think it's going away. And knowing that, I would be curious of how you deal with it, for sure. But yeah, I was thinking about ending it there actually. But a side note, right? I just want to go back a little bit to the just technology and the advent and how it affects individuals, their mental health, etc. I do think it's not all bad. I do think it's not all bad. I do think there has to be a way to monitor, to control it amongst the young specifically, right? Because I do think kids are spending way too much time on social media platforms, on their phones. I do think that's gone a little bit over the top. I don't think that that's the trajectory we want people to be on, like us as a people. But it is really, if the it's nice being able to record something like this, right? For all intents and purposes be saved and forever available in some form, to look at, and it goes, videos are nicer. I prefer videos over like pictures or anything, right? But the same goes for pictures to an extent. I don't have as many childhood photos, and so it's really hard as a kid to really think about how you really looked like. Some of my earliest photos, which are very few and far between, a majority might happen, when the majority of them might have been from high school, not so much middle school, because in middle school you still had those like flip phones. I think that's when people started getting phones, right? That was like when I was 13, 14-ish, I think. But in high school, there was Facebook. There was a moment in time where I don't remember when Facebook blew up. I never really used MySpace, but there was a point in time where Facebook was the thing, it was the new thing, and everybody used Facebook. And that was just, I mean, there was no Instagram, so your Facebook was your platform that you posted all your pictures. And that's when you got a lot of pictures. And I'm appreciative of the fact that there are photos of me and photos of, you know, people and their lives as they were growing, because you can, when you have your friends on Facebook, you can follow them and you can, quote unquote creep on them. But really it's just to say, like, sometimes even if you don't interact with them well, or if they weren't your best friends in high school, or if they were and you're not really in touch anymore, you you can just, you're able to check in on them to just see how they've been, or what they like, how they are now. I think that's probably one of the more impactful, positively impactful things um, technology, social media, and that stuff has been able to do. And the young probably won't appreciate this until they're older, right? Because nowadays all the little kids they take like 10 plus selfies a day. So they're trust me, they're gonna have a reference for whatever age they were at, and that's nice. It's a nice thing. The uh, it's kind of like the childhood that I've had, right? The memories that I have, uh, the ones you don't have any reference to. It's kind of like the dark ages, uh, but it's really comforting to me that I can share those memories that I do remember of my childhood with family and stuff, and they can, with my parents, and they can tell me how it was, what they remembered and all of this. But again, oh my gosh, rabbit hole, rabbit hole, rabbit hole. Once nobody else remembers, it's like it didn't happen. But yeah, it's not, the purpose in life really is not to find greater meaning. It's you people are frail. You you live your life, you go through life. You're not here a long time, 100 years in comparison to everything else, right? I have trees outside that were planted, you know 5 years, 6 years ago. Though, barring any incident where, any incident where they get chopped down or whatever, they're gonna outlive me. So we're not here a long time. Bleak to say, but it's true. Um, so the all all of that. What was I trying to say? It's just, you have to. The only way you can live your life and not drive yourself crazy is. It's gonna sound like a fucking one of those, like, generic advices, which I hate. But living your life to your fullest. But being happy, doing things that make you happy, and those around you happy. If your life isn't long, you want to do things, you want to fill it up with as much happiness as you possibly can. Right? Because we all don't know what happens, right? Outside of, the physical when you pass, right? This whole consciousness situation, we're really still to an extent unsure. Um, but you'd want, I think the only way to not drive yourself insane is to realize you want to do things that make you happy and make those around you happy. Um, Because if you're not, then with all the cons, the how meaningless meaningless an individual life is on the macro scale, like we talked about, how short it is, all that stuff, it's gonna just drive you insane. It's gonna drive you up a wall. And that's something I'm working on. And I hate using the word wasted, right, when I'm talking about time. But there's just so many hundreds and thousands of hours used on, video games, sports like basketball growing up, ultimate frisbee, that kind of stuff. That's You made friends. You learn discipline. There's things you learned from it, but it's not applicable to my latter life, right? So I could have learned those same lessons from something else. It's all that time spent could have been done for something else, but the key is I enjoyed doing those things, right? I spent those hundreds of hours, those thousands of hours doing something I enjoyed, and it brought me joy. And that's all that should matter. And as long as you, me, everyone else can, wrap our heads around it, come to terms with that, and just realize that that's the most important, I think getting not over, but coping with depression becomes very easy or easier. I don't want to, minimize what other people are going through, but yeah, it is tough though. It's really tough. You have to realize, I'm getting older. My back hurts when I wake up. There's these pains, but it doesn't matter. As long I can still do things that make me happy, and I can focus on those things, and that's enough, right? Just live in the moment. Oh my gosh, day by day, yeah, yada yada yada, right? But that's, I guess people knew something when when those sayings and those generic ass comments came up, because that's all you can do. We really can't do much. So we'll see. We'll see whether or not I end up posting a video tomorrow, because this one, of course, is 43 minutes long. But I sincerely hope it helped someone out there, just even one person. And if not, maybe not even from YouTube in general, but down the line, it could be hundreds of years later, thousands of years later. We don't even know, right? I can't even fathom. But maybe mental health is still an issue, and maybe this finds its way somehow, some way, to someone, and helps them. Just could be one person. It would be enough. But even if it doesn't, it's enough that it's for me to look back on. Maybe I'll post some updates on just overall specific things, or I mean, not specific, but overall things happening in my life. Those may or may not actually get posted to YouTube. But I think some people, journaling is a thing that helps a lot of people. I think moving forward, journaling becomes kind of old school. I think the video format is obviously preferred, at least for me. Just because you hear yourself. It's not like so many of those different factors aren't filled in by your imagination, right? This is how you are in this moment in time. That's forever, right? In this video, I think it's nice. But yeah, we're hitting 45 minutes. I'm gonna call it here. I think actually, it's snowing. Huh. So there you go. The first snow of the year, December 8th. But yeah, I really hope that this helps someone out there. Um, and again, feel free to comment or message me privately. For sure, I'll look at it, get back to you. Yeah, and I hope you guys all have a great day, or the day is ending, but you know what I mean. And I'll catch you guys later. See ya, YouTube.